Gary here again, and today is the 29th of March 2018, and the subject that I want to talk about today is the country of Singapore. And Singapore is a country located in Southeast Asia. It's not too far from Philippines, and I think it's kind of like close to China. And there are a lot of people that go there to live because it's a safe country. They're pretty strict with their laws and stuff, and on drug use, for example, they have the death penalty. And they're pretty strict with different things that make living, the quality of life a lot better. With the strict laws regarding criminality and other behavioral things that people do. But anyway, Singapore, I think one of their languages is English, and also Mandarin Chinese. But I think that one of my favorite people that I kind of like follow is an American businessman named Jim Rogers, and I've known about him for a long time, probably since the 1980s. But anyway, eventually he moved to Singapore, and other Americans have moved to Singapore. When I say Americans, I'm talking about mostly white Americans, Caucasian Americans. They moved to Singapore and they moved to other countries. But anyway, usually for a better way of life, or more safety, or Jim Rogers, he moved there because of the quality of life, and also because it's easier for him to manage his money there. He invests money there and things like that. But anyway, so the thing is, Singapore has a reputation of being one of those countries that you'd consider to be a safe haven, and lately I've been getting a little tiny bit of indications that the safe haven status of Singapore may be in jeopardy. And what I mean by that is primarily that there's a possibility that in the future China may just take the country over. I mean, Singapore probably doesn't even have a military or anything, and it's an easy step for China to just walk in and take the country over if they wanted to. And I think that they've been kind of making little steps or some kind of indications that they're interested in doing that. So for those white Americans, or any Americans for that matter, regardless of your skin color, that have went there for safe haven status, it may not be so good right now, and it probably later on in the future China will take it over completely. And then how white Americans will fare in that country is questionable. I don't know how well you do, especially if you have a lot of money. But anyway, Jim Rogers has given kind of a little sign to me, a signal to me, not to me personally, but by announcing the importance of having multiple passports from different countries, I think. So he's gotten his family multiple passports from different countries that they could flee to if they had to. And for his two daughters, he's got multiple passports for them also, for everybody. In case they have to flee Singapore, they have places that they can get into easy. They already have a passport. They might have a passport for New Zealand, you know. I don't know if he does or not, but he might have one, so that if they have passports for New Zealand, for example, it's no problem for them to move here. They can just get on a plane and get off the plane and show their passport, walk right in the country. They don't, and stay. They don't have to worry about renewing visas and getting special visas and all that sort of thing. So anyway, about Singapore, there's a possibility there might be big changes in the future with China, in regards to China taking the country over. And then another thing is the leader of Singapore. It was kind of a little documentary on television about him talking to President Xi about holding off any kind of takeover of the country. You know, he had a special meeting with Xi to try to convince him to not take over the country right now. And then there was this white American lady who was living in Singapore, probably as a safe haven, who exited as quickly as she could, it looked like to me. A white American woman. She looked like she might be kind of pretty well educated, kind of type, not, you know, and she was, they showed her, she was leaving Singapore and she moved to New Zealand. And the funny part about New Zealand is this country is appears to be quietly being taken over by the Chinese. So you leave Singapore because you're afraid of the Chinese taking over Singapore, and you go to New Zealand, and New Zealand has the same problem. Maybe, I wouldn't say it would be a worse problem, it'd be a same type of situation. So I'm keeping an eye on what's happening here in New Zealand. To me, I don't know if it's going to stabilize. I'm talking about the population of the Chinese moving into New Zealand. It's already got quite a few Chinese living here. In fact, we have a Chinese television station here up in this northern part of New Zealand. And they don't put television stations in for just a handful of people, you know that. They probably have to have a large group, fairly minimal large group of people, Chinese for example, before they establish a television station. So I'm keeping an eye on things, but Singapore doesn't look to me like for white Americans who are trying to leave the United States for personal reasons, like maybe they're scared or they're nervous about what's happening in the U.S., or they just don't like the current United States social situation, or whatever their reasons are. I don't know where to tell you to go, what country is the best or whatever, because there's so many problems that are developing around the world, and in Australia, in New Zealand. You know, some people go to Argentina and down in South America, but you know, I'm not sure about those places at all. Mexico, I don't know about that, what's going on there now. Philippines is another place where a lot of people try to go to live. I'm talking about mostly white Americans, and some other races too will leave. Here in New Zealand, we have some black people, African American types that have left the United States to live here, but not very many, just a few, very small group it looks like. But anyway, that Singapore don't look good right now. It probably doesn't look good for the future. As far as, I mean, I don't really know what's going to happen. The Chinese are kind of like on the march, so to speak, and they may be, you know, developing different. One New Zealander said that the Chinese are trying to establish a stronghold in New Zealand, and they're moving as many people into here, population, you know, as many people into here as they can. I guess that's what the impression that I get. So anyway, I'm just talking about these different things. I'm always interested in what's happening myself personally, because I left the United States. I was having too much of a problem, so I live here in New Zealand. But I got to realize after a while that all the English-speaking countries are in decline, in my opinion. They're in fast, rapid social decline, you know, moral, spiritual decline. The crime is increasing a lot. Crime is increasing a lot here in New Zealand, and the social problems, the homelessness, and drug use, and stuff like that. And so it's hard to escape all those things. I don't know where to. Right now, I don't know where to suggest people move to if you're a white American, or if you're a disaffected black American. You know, I don't know what to do. I don't recommend New Zealand anymore because of the trends that are established here in this country. I took down my New Zealand website. I took down every reference to it, because to me New Zealand's a big mess. But personally, that's what I think. So anyway, Singapore may have a lot of good qualities about it, but the China takeover is a looming possibility in the future. So it's something for you to keep in mind, and that's all I can talk to you about it right now, because I don't have any other examples of people leaving Singapore to talk about it more, to include them in this talk. So here, okay, I'll cut this off right now. See you later.